Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors here at Trillium. One of the great comics of the 20th century, I think, is Groucho Marx. Now, he kind of freaked me out as a kid because of his painted face, the painted mustache, painted eyebrows, and his kind of exaggerated actions, his leaning over, his kind of way he spoke and such. But he really does deserve the title of one of the great comics of the 20th century. He was known as a gay comic, certainly a master of one-liners. So like, for instance, he says, there's one way to find out if a man is honest. Ask him. If he says yes, you know he's a crook. Or he said, military intelligence is a contradiction in terms. He's the one that coined that. One of the most beautiful quotes that I've come across of Groucho Marx goes like this: "Blessed are the cracked, for they shall let the light in." And obviously Groucho Marx is making a play on the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus' famous teaching. The blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the cracked, for they shall let the light in. We live in a world that isn't too eager for people to get cracked. We want to live in a pristine condition, in a perfect condition, and we see often the cracks of life as a sign of flawed living. And I think that's unfortunate. I think it's a failure on our part of interpretation, and it has sometimes tragic consequences. I saw this with my own parents. They got cracked in their marriage. Their marriage also got cracked. At some point, they just gave up because they interpreted the cracks, I think, in a wrong manner. Those cracks were not a form of failure or limitation in their marriage. It was actually the opportunity for true love. Those cracks were meant to let the light in. But they didn't see it that way, and of course they ended up splitting up. And I think, in a way, they lost an opportunity, like many of us do. See, we often misinterpret our own cracks. We're ashamed of them. We try to hide them away. The cracks of life that come to us through our defeats and failures, through our disappointments and disillusionments, through our limitations. And we misinterpret the cracks. We think they're a sign of failure when they are actually opportunities. They may be an example of being cursed rather than a moment or a place of blessing in our lives. I actually believe that God needs those cracks in order to allow the heavenly light to come inside of us, to allow love to come inside of us. Otherwise, how will it happen? There's a great story in one of the Gospels of Jesus meeting this Pharisee named Simon, and Simon has spent his whole life avoiding being cracked and follows all the right rules listed in the Old Testament so that he doesn't get cracked. And at that same meeting, this prostitute comes to Jesus, this broken woman, this cracked woman through and through, and she ministers to him. And Simon's gasped by this. How can Jesus, a so-called prophet, allow this sinner to touch him? And Jesus has an answer for Simon. And in simple terms, it goes like this: "Blessed are the cracked, for they shall let the light in." Simon, you've spent your whole life trying to avoid being cracked. This woman is cracked through, and yet she is more ready for love than you are. She is more ready for love than you are. Our cracks are often the means by which love moves into our inner life. But I think when we follow Jesus, we understood that actually the interplay is a little different than what Groucho Marx's actual quote suggests. It's important that the cracks allow the light in, but I think the true little aphorism is this: "Blessed are the cracked, for they shall let the light out." That inner light, the light of heaven, the blessing of heaven, that Christ light we talk about, shines all the time inside us. But it's under this dome, this thick dome, and the cracks allow it to shine outwards. I don't have the faith of Jesus to allow my pane of glass to be cracked through and through to the point of being smashed so all the light can just simply go out. But I do want to let that light shine brighter and deeper in my own life. And so I commit myself today to allow myself to embrace my cracks and let it shine out.